Hey everybody, welcome back. We've covered a lot in these videos, so today the most important thing I wanted to cover for my customers and for anyone interested is what to do when your sod arrives. You've got your big pallets, they're all stacked up and lining the street. They got there early in the morning. Now what? What we're going to do is we're going to go over all the steps. Okay, the first thing, very important, is you've got to lay the sod within 6 hours. Now in the springtime or the fall, which is the best time to lay sod, it's fine. You can go 6 or 7 or 8 hours, but we definitely want you laying the sod on the same day, okay? Otherwise there's really no warranty that we can provide because it is a live product and it is 90% water. So as it's sitting there on the pallets, the sun is beating down on it, it is molding and it is getting hot and it is burning up. What will happen is if you don't lay it within that period, especially in the hot summer, you have a little bit more free time and give when you do it in the fall and the spring. But in the hot summer, like June, July, August, you definitely want to lay that. Now, what'll happen is if you don't, if you leave it a day, for example, that sod will rot, it will mold, and you won't know it until 2 weeks later when there's burn rings in the lawn. And those burn rings are they look terrible. So you'll have all these pieces of sod all kind of in a brick pattern all over, and you'll have these big brown rings, and you'll be like, what in the world happened to my big investment that I just made, right? You'll be calling me, Mark, hey, what's going on here? Well, it's because you didn't lay it on the same day and water it in right after, okay? So that's a really important piece to note. We will deliver the sod in flat pieces, so you'll want to make sure to very carefully roll up the sod. Each piece, there'll be 50 pieces on a pallet if you order 500 square feet. They're 10 square feet per square, 2 by 5. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to roll it up carefully because it's a live product and it can tear. Roll it up, roll up the piece as it's sitting on the pallet, and then carefully lift that roll up and put it in your wheelbarrow or in your skid steer bucket, whatever you're using to transport the turf to the location in the yard that you're going to lay it. Okay, once you've done that, what you want to do is you want to position the pieces of sod in the area you want to lay it without banging it around too much or throwing it or dumping it or letting it fall, because you don't want it to stress. Okay, it's already come from the farm on a semi truck, it's been loaded on these big pallets, it's been moved around, sat in the heat during its transportation, and the last thing you want to do is be dumping it all over the ground. Okay, so gently lay it in place, okay, unroll it, and then you'll want to lay it in a brick-like pattern. So you'll start your row with a half piece. You just lay the half piece over the concrete. You don't have to cut it just yet. And then you'll start the next piece and the next piece, and you'll keep that row going. And then on the next round, you'll put a full piece. And that full piece will now protrude out past the last. So you never have the seams line up. And that's critical, because if you do that, it'll grow in nicely and it won't look like there's big gaps. That's so important. Sod is, like I said, 90% water. So you don't want that sod to dry out. So you want to lay it as quickly as possible and then water it in for 25 minutes. I always say 15 is probably good, but I say 25 just to make sure it's in a squishy wet state. You want to keep it squishy wet for 2 weeks, okay? That means 25 minutes for the first watering so that it gets rehydrated and kind of settles in. It also, that 25 minutes, cements the dry soil to the root base of the sod pieces. So it's so critical that you go a little bit longer on that first watering, okay? Then water twice a day for 2 weeks, about 15 minutes per station, so it stays squishy wet for that 2 week period. Okay, so the next step is you want to make sure that you've watered it twice a day for 2 weeks and you haven't walked on it. That's the next thing, is you don't want to walk on it. Okay, so like I said, when you've done that first deep watering, it cements it in place, right? It's not going anywhere. You don't want to walk on it at that point. So if you have dogs or children, do your best. It's not the end of the world if they do end up walking on it, but try and keep people off and pets if you can. I know it's hard. Maybe rope it off and make it look special, so it's like, oh, don't be going in there, okay? So try that. But that's important because foot indentations, remember, it's super squishy wet if you're doing the watering right. So you don't want to dislodge the pieces, first of all. Second, you don't want to have foot indentations in the soil, in the sod, because then you're ending up having to regrade or refix those pitted areas or those dips where you walked on it, okay? So those are very important things to remember. You've done all your watering, you're keeping up with it, things are going well, the sod is growing nicely, and now you're wondering, what do I do now? It's like, you know, it's growing into a forest. Like, this thing's getting so lush and thick, it's wonderful. And now I want to mow it. So what you want to do is you want to wait for about 2.5, 3 weeks, and then you'll come in and mow it at the very highest setting of your lawnmower, okay? The goal here is to not cut more than 1/3 of the total growth. So if you do more than that, it can shock the lawn, okay? Kentucky bluegrass, it doesn't like to go have cuttings that are like dramatic cuttings, you know, significant cuttings, especially at that first 2-week mark when the nurturing is super critical. So make sure that when you mow the lawn, highest setting, okay, and if you haven't mowed it for 3 weeks and it's gone even higher, then what I would do is take a trimmer, a string trimmer, and I would just cut off just the top rough cutting, not any more than just a little bit, and then let it sit for a couple more days and then mow a little bit more. But just try and avoid cutting. You don't come in there with a mower, you know, we're gonna cut this thing, we're gonna buzz this thing down and bam. No, because what'll happen is you'll put it into shock and it will turn brown, and then you'll be calling me going, Mark, what's going on here? And I'll be like, well, did you cut it more than 1/3 of its growth? And you'll say, yeah, I did. So just be mindful of that. Okay, now let's talk about feeding the turf. Okay, Kentucky bluegrass loves nitrogen. Now, a lot of people ask me, Mark, do I need to put starter fertilizer down? And I always tell them, you know what, the sod actually is fed so well out at the farm on these big, huge fields that it gets plenty of nitrogen. I wouldn't worry too much about putting starter fertilizer down, especially in the hot summer, because it's just going to stress it. Like I said, it already comes a little bit stressed, so I wouldn't worry too much about starter fertilizer. You can if you want. If it's spring and fall, go ahead. But I wouldn't recommend it in the summertime. Now, as far as feeding goes, I learned from a turf expert many years ago and he was so wonderful. I loved his insight on so many things. He told me, look, Mark, all you've got to do, and all we do at the farm, is we feed the sod pure nitrogen, and it's called ammonium sulfate. Ammonium sulfate is a 2900 on the bag. It's actually the cheapest fertilizer you can purchase at any home or garden stores. It's like $15 and it covers 3,000 feet or so. So it's a score that way too. And all it is pure nitrogen. And what you do is it comes in granules in a bag, and you just put it in a broadcast spreader, and you in the cold months between March, April, May, skip June, skip July, and then September and October is when you'd want to apply that. And if you stay consistent with that, you will have the thickest, greenest, lushest turf lawn you've ever seen, and you'll love it. It's fantastic. Now skip June and July and most of August because it's still in the hundreds. And remember, Kentucky bluegrass is a cool season turf, so it will go dormant when it is freezing temperatures or getting close to freezing temperatures, and it will also go dormant when it's above 90 degrees. So a lot of people will ask me, well, why is my lawn going brown or stop growing? Well, that's why. It's going into dormancy. So keep that in mind when you start to see slow growth or brown spots, dry spots, which we're going to go over next. Okay, so now we have this beautiful green, lush Kentucky bluegrass turf, and you're proud of it. You've worked hard and you've made it wonderful. And it's weed-free because you followed my other videos on how to keep a weed-free lawn. So if you haven't, go check our description. There's a link in there for those videos, and also on my channel. Hopefully you're subscribing. We get to the fall months now. We're getting ready to prepare for snowfall, but we're still a month and a half out. So what we want to do now is we want to apply a fall fertilizer or a winterizer fertilizer for the turf to establish its roots through the harsh winter. And if you do this step, you'll have a wonderful green lawn come early spring. So this is very important for that setup. So what you want to do is you want to get a fall fertilizer if you can find them. It's not always easy, but if you can find a fertilizer with a high middle number, that's the perfect one, because it also, the high middle number is phosphorus, and that's the root development mineral that helps build the root system as it's sitting dormant through the winter, okay? Also, a high third number is also good. That's potassium. That helps root off disease. Now that we've got this perfect lawn, the turf looks amazing, we've followed my steps by feeding it monthly in the cool season months, and we've just got this amazing thick lush lawn that's weed free, because remember, the best weed barrier is a thick lush lawn that's well fed. Okay, that's the best way to ward off any weeds, because those airborne seedlings that fall can't hit the soil and germinate. So remember that. So if you keep up with your feedings, you'll have a weed-free, wonderful lawn, okay? But now let's talk about dry spot. So right now we're in the mid-July season. It's like the hottest time of the season here in Utah. It's also a drought right now, so we're having to deal with that. Well, we're seeing things like this. Now keep in mind it's 100-degree weather right now, okay? So about 2 weeks ago I came in here and I added a little bit of compost to help build up the soil, because this was really thin and it actually helped it a lot. You can't see any dirt anymore. That wasn't the case about a month ago. This was super thin and that helped it a lot. But now it's 100+ degrees, and so you have dry spot over there, if you can see. And we've got a dry patch here, as you can see. Well, it's not because it's not getting water. It's getting plenty of water, but remember what I said about turf going into dormancy when it's above 90 degrees? That's what's happening. This is a dry spot problem. Super, super easy to fix, and you've probably seen it in every lawn you've ever seen. Okay, so let's go over that. Okay, so the dry spot issue. There's a product. You can get it at any home and garden store. It's called Revive. This is about $20. This is a half-gallon container that you hook to your hose. This product not only saves dry spot, but it's also a wetting agent or a soil surfactant. So what it does is it looks like soap. When you spray it on, it's sudsy. You're like, what's going on here? But it also has iron in it and several other ingredients that are proprietary to this particular brand. And you can read those on the side here. But this particular brand I like because it revives the lawn. Dry spot, what happens is when you spray this on, it actually makes the surface of the soil accept water better. So you spray it on, and then you come back once you've sprayed it, and you either spray it with a hose or you turn on your sprinklers and water it for 2 or 3 minutes, and that settles this product into the soil. And once that happens, you give it 2 weeks, and then you apply it again. And what will happen is the water that you are watering actually gets where it needs to go, and it retains itself in the soil. So that dry spot, bye-bye, okay? Bye! No more dry spot. The other thing that I love this product for, when customers call me, Mark, what do I do? My dog has created all these spots. You know what I'm talking about, right? They go out, they do their business, they urinate, and then we've got all these little brown spots all over the place. Thank you very much for the 5,000 square feet of sod you just delivered. My lawn is completely spotty now. And it's not the burn rings I was talking about earlier. Okay, so Revive will solve that problem. Okay, you spray that on the spot, water it in like I said for a couple of minutes, seep it down into the soil, do it again in 2 weeks, and you will love this product. Okay, and every homeowner or landscaper should have a bottle of this in their garage, if you own pets especially. But for summertime too, like for these dry spots. So Revive, you're gonna love it. Probably why there's a picture of a dog on the front. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually show you what I'm gonna do here. So, all right, so we're gonna hook this on like that, okay? And on the side here, if you can see, it's currently in the off position. And then if you go to the center, it's just watering it. There's no mixture of it. And then if you go to on, then it will water with the mixture. Pre-mixes it, so it's wonderful. So you don't need one of these, which we'll go into next about the other product. So give it a good shake because it's been sitting on the shelf. Get that iron mixed in with all of the wetting agents. Now we're gonna just move that. There's a little spacer thing in there where it's plastic. We're just gonna move that out of the way. Okay. And we're gonna see the suds. Those suds are actually the wetting agent. Okay. So we're just gonna apply this. We don't have to bathe it in it. Like, this isn't like a first time sod watering episode, but we do want to get that iron to cover that area pretty well. So we'll go over here and do this one too. A lot of people mistake this for being like a watering shortage issue. Not the case. This is getting watered just fine. This is simply a dry spot issue. So we're achieving two things here. We're giving iron to the soil and the roots of the turf, but we're also adding a wetting agent or a soil surfactant, which will break the surface tension of the soil so water can seep down in and not puddle anymore, and also retain itself. Oh, we got some crabgrass over here, some nutsedge. We're going to take care of that with our special lawn weed killer that I have a video on that I showed you. So make sure you check that video out. Now, one thing I want to mention here. This is a result of also cutting the lawn a little short. So I got a little overzealous. I'm overexcited this week because I got this new mower I'm going to show you here in the next video. Make sure to check that video out too. Battery powered lawnmower, coolest thing ever. But anyway, I cut the lawn a little short, and I shouldn't have, so that didn't help. Shouldn't be shorter than 3 inches, like we talked about. So, okay, so we're going to talk about another soil surfactant wetting agent. It's called Easy Wet. Now, this is great for also the lawn. Does not have iron in it. It's just the wetting agent itself, okay? But I bought this in a gallon. It was like 30 or 40 bucks, okay? It's not cheap. But that's because you only need a tiny bit. Now, I've got this sprayer here that actually mixes whatever you put in here with the proportion that you choose on this dial right here, okay? Now, for this product, I've chosen 1 tablespoon. So 1 tablespoon per gallon is what this concentrate will actually mix with water. And there's some already in here. It almost looks a little bit like dish soap, right? It's got that kind of got that gooey consistency. If you can see that. Now, because this is doing all of the mixing, proportioning, I don't care how much is in here. Okay, so I'll just dump a bunch in. That'll last me for like a whole side yard or half the backyard or more, several thousand square feet. Okay, so I'm going to put this in, and there's 3 settings on this fan. This particular brand I bought. I've got it on the fan setting so it'll broadcast it out. This is a godsend for watering in a drought like we are in Utah. What it says here, it's good for soil or turf. So if you wanted to add this to any soil where your flowers are planted, or have another video about flower pots, this is something I add to the flower pots once a month. I do a full saturation of the pot till it goes out the bottom. And what that does is that allows the water to retain in the soil. So it's not just for lawn. You can use it for soil as well. But in this drought that we're in, this product is a godsend. So we're just going to go over here where it looks like it's been a little dry. We're going to apply this. It looks like a sudsy, kind of a sudsy look. So we're just going to apply this liberally here. Notice I'm not doing this, you know. We're just kind of going slow so it can build up a little bit. There we go. A little bit more. And you can put it right around the tree too, because what it's doing is it's making contact with the soil. And see the suds? it's making contact with the soil, and therefore it's breaking down the surface, so water can then penetrate. So what happens is there's a surface tension on soil, especially in the lawn, because there's a thatch layer that builds up. When that happens, you need a product like this to break through that thatch layer and that soil that's not letting the water get in. And so what you think you're watering, you're not watering at all. It just puddles at the top, and the soil is not getting any of the water. And that's why a product like this is so important, which is also why we like it in the drought situation, because you can water less. Okay, so I watered way too much. But anyway, you get the idea. All right, so now that I've done that, notice there's still a ton left in there. Okay, now I'm gonna go turn on the sprinklers so that can seep into the soil. Okay, so we've addressed the dry spot and the drought watering when we're in the heat of the summer. So now what we want to do is we want to discuss what to do with the watering at the 15 plus days. Okay, so we know about the squishy wet for the first 14 days, but from 15 plus days after that, what we want to do is water the lawn only 1 inch. We want to water the lawn with only 1 inch for every 6 to 7 days. Okay, the way to do that, to just only water 1 inch for every 6 to 7 days, is to cut back your waterings by a day. Okay, so you were watering every day, twice a day, for 2 straight weeks. Now you're going to do is you've mowed it, 1/3 of its cut of its growth. Now you're going to cut back the watering by a day, and then another day over the course of a few weeks. So you're going to start to train that lawn to need less. Okay, and you can use the screwdriver technique. Just push a screwdriver into the sod to see if it goes in easily. If it doesn't, you know it's not getting its 1 inch. If it does, great. Now, the thing about Kentucky bluegrass, like I said, it goes dormant. If we get into an extreme drought situation like we're teeter-tottering on right now, the sod can do fine without all the water. It can go brown, the leaves can turn, the blades can turn brown, and they'll be fine. And you'll think, well, I have a dead lawn, and that's not the case. The Kentucky bluegrass root system is so expansive that it looks dead, but it's actually not. If you go back and water it, it will actually come back and be fine. Another turf species that you can also look into if you're in an extreme drought and you refuse to do gravel or decorative rock for your entire xeriscape situation is tall fescue. Tall fescue and fine fescue are great. You can actually take seeds from that species and overseed your lawn in the fall months or colder spring months, and that will actually help your lawn become a little more diversified in its seed blend to actually, when the Kentucky bluegrass starts to go brown, the tall fescue won't. So actually still have green lawn if you choose to take that method and use seed to mix it and overseed with that. So some tips there that from the turf experts, and something you might want to consider. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is a lot of information. I hope you can refer back to it and it becomes helpful for all of your sod care instructions, both if you just purchased a new lawn from me or from any other supplier in town, or if you just have a lawn that happens to be Kentucky bluegrass and you just want a greener, beautiful, more lush, fantastic, envy of the neighborhood style type lawn. So we want you to be happy, we want you to love your lawn, but you got to feed it, you got to care for it, and these are the ways to do it. Okay? Have a great day. If this video was helpful and you gained from it the tips and tricks that I offer and some of the things that I've learned over the years, be sure to like and subscribe my channel, Mark's Lawn and Garden, where you'll be notified when new videos come out. I try to post once a week, so be sure to like and tap the follow button so you get notified and stay in touch. Very important. Thank you so much for your support, and be sure to put in the comments things that you want to learn about, things that topics that you might want me to cover that would be helpful to you and your family and making your project and landscapes better. Thank you.